Welcome to the Sunday morning meditation service. And we're going to be doing a call and response, and so I need to hear you respond. And don't be afraid to sing out. You should be able to hear your own voice. And this is a very simple chant. It's very native feeling. And I'm so blessed to have Louis and
me.
Larry. I've only known him. Actually, his birthday's on the same day as mine. How can I forget your name? Whatever. It's just thinking about my chant. Okay. All right, so let's start. Spirit of the wind,
Spirit of the wind,
carry me home.
carry me home.
Spirit of the ocean,
Spirit of the ocean,
calm my emotions,
calm my emotions,
set my soul free.
set my soul free.
Spirit of the rain,
Spirit of the rain,
wash away all pain.
wash away all pain.
Spirit of the storm,
Spirit of the storm,
help me be reborn.
help me be reborn.
Set my soul free.
Set my soul free.
Spirit of the sky,
Spirit of the sky,
lift my soul to fly.
lift my soul to fly.
Spirit of the sun,
Spirit of the sun,
shine your light through me.
shine your light through me.
Set my soul free.
Set my soul free.
set my soul free.
Set my soul free.
Spirit of the rain,
Spirit of the rain.
wash away all pain.
Wash away all pain.
Spirit of the storm,
Spirit of the storm.
help me be reborn.
Help me be reborn.
Set my soul free.
Set my soul free.
Spirit of the sky,
Spirit of the sky.
lift my soul to fly.
Lift my soul to fly.
Spirit of the sun,
Spirit of the sun.
shine your light through me.
Shine your light through me.
Set my soul free.
Set my soul free.
Spirit of the earth,
Spirit of the earth.
guide my path home.
Guide my path home.
Spirit of the earth,
Spirit of the earth.
guide my path home.
Guide my path home.
Creator, bring me home.
Creator, bring me home.
Creator, bring me home.
Creator, bring me home.
Home to the light within.
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 No, there's less here this week than there was last week. I can't show you the shirt. Good morning, everyone. It's unfortunate that I have to come out here and kvetch and grovel to try to get people to come here. But it kind of goes along with that Shakespearean quote, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women but players." Nothing could be more true in the initial state of consciousness, that all the world is a stage and the men and women but players. And we can realize this about ourselves if we're honest. And then sometimes we get a glimpse of it watching other people in action to see how the ego-centered idea of one's self, being so body-oriented and acclimated that you don't see the insight or inspiration of consciousness. I'll tell you a true story. When Norma's mother passed away, she was at the place, the funeral home where they take care of things, and they were had her laid out there before the service, before she would be put out at the service. And Norma and her sister Jean came in and saw her, and they just went crazy. They said, that's not her. What have they done to her? Her hairdo was all wrong. The makeup was all wrong. You've never seen anything like this. Two girls climbing on top of this cadaver and fixing her makeup and her hair, while the funeral director is looking on in complete dismay, wondering what's going on. But I watched that happen. So the world is a stage. I mean, when we think in the terms of being just strictly these personalities that we've developed over our lifetime, this collection of beliefs that for the first part of our lives is very much connected to the body idea, the body presentation. I mean, even in our later stages when we're more awake, even the masters sometimes, Eckhart Tolle, occasionally will well, in this particular video I'm going to share with you, he's got a gold vest on. I guess it's okay. Can we have this video, please? While I try to think of something to say.
The transformation of consciousness that is happening to each one of you is that kind of death, but it is not the physical death. It's the death of what I call the me, or what in some spiritual traditions is called the self, which is a mind-made sense of self. That is dissolving. So really, why we are here is to undergo that death. voluntarily. Well, partly voluntarily. Because if you hadn't gone through great suffering already due to being trapped in a mental image of me, which is a suffering sense of self, a sense of self that is unhappy a lot of the time. So you've been trapped in a suffering sense of self, and the suffering has become so acute that something within you said, this is too much. There must be something else. I can't go on like this. I'm saying this because that happened to me. So it looks as if you had chosen to come here, and that's fine, that's one perspective on it. But really, you were driven here because you want to die. You want to die that death of the self, the little me in the head, because that's not who you are. Now, the little me doesn't want to die, so there are two movements inside you. One is the movement towards liberation, and it's a very strong and increasingly powerful movement to become free of that. Something far vaster is emerging in you than even the heaviest and most dramatic story of me, than even the heaviest me could be, that thinks, oh, I'm so heavy. Nothing, you can sometimes see people, you say, well, there's no chance that they would ever become liberated in this lifetime. If you look at the heaviness of their drama and their total identification with the drama of me. But you might be wrong, because very often the most unlikely people suddenly step beyond. And perhaps the monk who's been practicing meditation for 30 years hasn't stepped quite beyond yet. There's still a me and mental image of me as the spiritual one. And there might be a criminal here in a prison cell whose sense of mentally made sense of self suddenly dissolves. And what emerges is great joy, aliveness, and peace, and a state of connectedness with being, a vastness which is not separate from you, is one with who you are, can only be expressed in paradox. It is you and yet much greater than you. So we are here to connect with that vastness that lies underneath the storyline of me. And we are allowing the story of me to come to an end. Your sense of identity is no longer derived from the content of your mind. Whatever thoughts go through your mind, you are no longer a thought-based entity. Thoughts still happen, but thoughts don't give you an identity anymore. Then thought is not problematic. The continuous stream of thinking is only problematic because your sense of self is trapped in it. That makes life extremely problematic, and every thought tells you how problematic your life is. I'm not complete. I need, I want, I must have. Where is it? To complete myself, I'm looking for myself. I want to add something to the content of me.
Tolle will go on to imply that there is nothing wrong with the mind-made definition of self. There's nothing wrong, bad, or evil about it. It happens to be the initial stage of life. It's the seed stage of life, so to speak. The seed is put in the ground, the earth, and it lives to grow and nurture, and then, but its destiny and its completion is found in breaking through the earth into the open air and blossoming. So, in a sense, that's what he is talking about. What he's really calling is the destiny of every human being. It's the calling of every one of us to consider this transformation from this initial state of consciousness in which we identify with a separate body, mind, in a world of separate phenomena, and doing a spiritual practice so that we expand our awareness, our opportunity to really recognize the divine insights and the divine healing joy of awareness. And what he is saying is that we're not, it's not the end of our body life. We still continue in the world to operate in the ways we operated, but no longer are we, locked into this limited definition of self that is forever being tossed back and forth, to and fro, by the changing tides of circumstances, so that we are being defined by the world. And when things and conditions and circumstances are agreeing with our personal expectations, our personal desires and demands, we are okay, we're at peace. But when they are not complying with those expectations and demands, we have resistance and we have concern, and it can actually expand into anxiety, anger, and depression, and all kinds of limited feelings and emotions. So it is supposedly the journey of life to awaken to that fact that this particular definition of life does not provide a lasting bedrock happiness. That is not ever going to be there for anyone operating from the initial state of awareness. Happiness can only come when we are opened up to the reality of this intelligence operating in every person, place, and condition in which we used to see ourselves as separate, but is not separate at all. So this is a calling to transformation, and it is the destiny of human beings to arrive in this place where they're considering, this other way of experiencing life from a higher level of awareness. To be, as Jesus asked his disciples to be, in the world, but no longer of the world, so that they are not operating in that limited definition of self. And this, of course, takes mindfulness. To accomplish this requires a certain amount of mindfulness and being more awake to when we are in the process of inwardly resisting what is happening. That's the waking up. When we're aware of the fact that we're having an inner resistance here to what is happening, what is taking place, or an inner resistance to a certain person or people. So that is what mindfulness is about, to be able to recognize that, and then to release it. And then you discover that you can release it. In the beginning, for many people, they can't. But if they do the spiritual practice, eventually they say, oh yes, absolutely, you can release that. Can you imagine being able to release any kind of unhappiness? What would that be worth? If you could put a price on something like that, to say to a person, if you come to me, you're not going to get the usual kind of counseling, but if you come to me, I'm going to show you how you can absolutely transcend, release any kind of unhappiness. Because what you're doing is you're transcending in consciousness from a definition of life that sees in terms of not wanting, fearing, grasping, needing. You're transcending that, and all of a sudden, you're in your divine soul awareness, where you're looking at everything as sacred. The most seeming strange and terrible things have a purpose that you can embrace. You may not be able to pinpoint and understand what that purpose is, but can you imagine being so surrendered and having such faith as to ultimately, finally, be totally open to doing the will of God without having to say, what does that mean? Or why is that happening? Or who's doing this to who? Or who's responsible? Who's wrong? Who's right? What needs to be said? Can you imagine being in another state of awareness, consciousness, where you have been made holy? We talk, in traditional circles, people talk about doing the will of God. But basically, it's so difficult for people to consider that in terms of separation. And in terms of, look at all these people coming in now. We might get 40 people. They keep coming in like this. Maybe I'll show half the shirt. See what I have to do? I mean, some people are born to be famous and others not. So A Course in Miracles speaks to this, as it speaks to this almost continually. Can we have this first PowerPoint, please? This is in the old text, page 206, or the new edition, 222. Salvation is for the mind, and it is attained through peace. This is the only thing that can be saved, and the only way to save it. Any response other than love arises from a confusion about the what and the how of salvation. And this is the only answer. Never lose sight of this, and never allow yourself to believe, even for an instant, that there is another answer. For you will surely place yourself among the poor, who do not understand that they dwell in abundance and that salvation is come. We'll take the second part again. For you will surely place yourself among the poor. And if you have any relationship with A Course in Miracles, the poor are those who are still trying to find completion in material awareness. They're still trying to find a way in life on a physical level, strictly, in which they're going to be fulfilled and free. But as has been pointed out by Tolle in the previous video and by all the spiritual teachers that are worth their weight in salt, they point out to us the awakening to see that even those that seemingly have gained every possible material, physical advantage are still not free. And they're still concerned. They go to pieces. They don't understand. They don't realize who they are truly. So here we are, once again, looking at this process. So sustaining peace of mind is our moment-to-moment yoga of mindfulness, in which we surrender to the will of the higher intelligence that has given us life and is life living through us. The will of this higher intelligence. It's living through us, but our minds are beclouded by limited concepts that block us from being, listen to it. If you don't get anything else out of this, take this with you. Our mental state, our incessant thinking, our forever grasping mind blocks us from feeling okay. We're not quite present and okay with things as they're happening. We're always attempting to use this moment to get to a better moment because we're not okay. We don't know how to be okay until we actually surrender and allow this intelligence that is always there to come forth fully and completely in our awareness. This surrendering is more easily accomplished when we realize that every ego endeavor ultimately fails to fulfill. And it is a passing experience. It's just passing. And they go on and on and on and never get us to feeling that okayness. I'm totally okay. Wherever you find yourself, can you imagine that? And be able to find yourself in where you, when you do enter into practicing mindfulness, you know that you can alleviate that inner resistance that the ego-centered idea has to conditions and circumstances it doesn't want to be there, people it doesn't want to be around. That's our journey. That's our spiritual journey. And so it speaks about here, whatever response is not love, that means you're unenlightened, by the way. If you've got issues with people and you're still talking bad and you're thinking terrible things about life and yourself and your outlook is limited and fearful, you've got to just get involved in the spiritual practice. Because it's not you alone that's going to pull you out of this. It is the fact that you're actually accessing your core nature. Your core nature is God. It is Christ. It is Buddha nature. And when you start to do spiritual practice, you're allowing the incessant thinking of the ego-centered mind to rest. Just rest. And you don't necessarily try to cut it off, you just let it relax. As you do that, the feeling that I'm more than this body starts to rise within you. I'm a soul within a soul. And in every possible way, the New Testament speaks to this. And all the masters down through the ages have spoke to this. But this is so beautifully said. This is the summation of the master of masters' teaching. Can we have this next PowerPoint, please? This is John, Gospel of John 15, verses 12 through 16. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that a person lay down his or her life for their friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give it to you. This I command you, to love one another. Can we take this back again, please? Jeepers, is that it? My time is up? See, I don't live in that time-space thing anymore. That clock is interfering with my happiness. Okay. This here idea that I command you, when you read the New Testament, please try to expand to understand this is not about a historic carpenter's son. Jesus is a symbolic being used for the unenlightened to first be able to consider something beyond the normal, illusionary, logical definitions of life. So you see a man operating in history, but if you cling to that scripture, if you delve into it and give yourself to the ideas being presented by it, Jesus will disappear as a man. He must. I sometimes do whole talks about this when I used to have like some time to do talks. This is the Christ in you speaking the universal truth. And the command to you is coming from within you, that you love one another unconditionally, because that is how this divine love operates and how it is symbolized in the life of Jesus of Nazareth. This divine love commands us to love one another, which seems to be the hardest thing for a human being to do, because we have all of these limited impressions that we've collected of our personalities and specialness and our point of view, which is assumed to be an objective observance of life, and it is not in any way an objective observance of life. And then he goes to speak about, can we have this next piece of this, Heather? I chose you. You did not choose me. And so here's something else. If you don't get anything out of this, see if you can get in touch with this. By saying this, you did not choose me, but I chose you. You can, in fact, forgive every single other human being because they have not been chosen yet. You see, this is grace. This is saying, yes, you do the spiritual practice, but it is this divine core nature that is calling you to do that. And it calls you first to do that. You do not call upon it. So look at this. We could leave here today and be able to know fully and understand fully that I am always okay. Whether I've taken on the opening to spiritual awareness or whether I have not. And everyone else is okay, because only if they have been called, if they have been inspired, if they have been moved, and certainly if they have been broken. Very few people come into that grace without first being broken. Their idea of self is so special, so contracted, so limited in the idea that it can actually control and get things to operate the way it wants them to be, get people to be the way they think they should be. And then it completely fails, and conflict grows and grows until you arrive, I can't take this anymore. Helen Schuckman got there. Eckhart Tolle arrived at a place he couldn't stand himself. Those are his words. I couldn't stand myself anymore. Broken. And then, let me try something different. But it's not you. It is this Christ in you that said, now, you are reborn. Now you are awakened. Now, live now. Be awake now. All right, I have to use this final quote. Can I do the both? Okay. I just want to share this final quote because Can we have this final quote, please? Here's our calling to the higher intelligence. People think that this surrender is the end of life. We should wind up in an ashram or a cave, and that's the only way we can do it. This is Eckhart Tolle from Stillness Speaks, page 23 and 24. Artistic creation, sports, dance, teaching, counseling, mastery in any field of endeavor implies that the thinking mind is either no longer involved at all, or at least is taking second place. A power and intelligence greater than you, and yet one with you in essence, takes over. There is no decision-making process anymore. Spontaneous right action happens, and you are not doing it. Mastery of life is the opposite of control. You become aligned with the greater consciousness. It acts, speaks, does the works. You can bring this back again. I'll read it one more time, but let me try to explain how everyone has had a glimpse of this. You know that when you're possibly doing your favorite hobby, if you're doing pottery, or if you're painting a painting, or if you're a musician and you're playing music on a guitar, or the instrument that you have learned to appreciate, or writing, even people when they're journaling, or when you're cleaning the garage sometimes, or when you're doing the dishes. And it's no longer a drudgery. Somehow or other you've accepted it to the point where you know this has happened, where the doer and that being done has merged. There's no separation. There's no you doing it anymore. You're simply, the writing is coming through, the painting, the pottery, the dishes. There's no, you walk away from the sink and you don't even remember having done dishes. You didn't even remember cleaning the garage. You got so inspired because you merged. And it happens with things like that. But now, mastery is not just merging with those things that you are inspired to do, but to merge with even that which appears to be initially unpleasant. You're capable of just flowing with it. This is living in the now moment, so that conditions and circumstances no longer define you, because you're willing to be there, and the only thing going through you is, how can I bring more peace? How can I bring more happiness, healing, love? Look at that. Can you imagine thinking that when something unpleasant is taking place or you're being confronted, and yet all that's going on in your mind is, how do I bring more peace here, more love? How do I bless this situation? And all you have to do before you leave here today is ask yourself, do you believe there are masters that so live in that consciousness, they are never again perturbed by anything the world throws at them. And that's our calling. And so now we can do some meditating, which is the spiritual practice of allowing this incessant thinking mind. How many people we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Oh, 28. 28. Oh, wait, I can see it's 29. Okay. I need 11 more. I only needed 9 more last week. All right. And look at how I'm taking this. So I'm proving it to you. I'm talking to you folks out there on the screen. Can you get here next week? I need 12 more people than I have here today. Just show up. Come on, do something different. Be courageous. Be faithful. All right, take them. Okay. Just take a couple of deep breaths. As you release the breath, release any cares and concerns that you may have brought with you that might be actually playing in your incessant thinking. And know this: I am okay. I have always been okay. And everything I look upon is okay. I am okay. You are okay. Everything is okay. And it will rise when it is called. I'm okay, you're okay, everything's okay, and it will rise when it is called. Let this be an affirmation. We'll do this. Take this into the quiet. I'm okay, you're okay, everything's okay, and it will rise when it is called. as we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space. Let us go forth in the understanding that we go forth by divine appointment. All of us here have been called, have been chosen. Now we facilitate this process of awakening, serving that unconditional acceptance and unconditional love. And for this opportunity in every moment, we will feel grateful. And to this, we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. If we have, yes, we do have offering takers, okay. So, this is very relaxed. Those of you that are on screen can go down to the donation button and it'll explain to you how to donate. Here's some of the ways you can donate to Unity. Keep this, this church center going. And those of you here that do make a physical gift, we have baskets that will be passed around. But let's all bring to this moment the gift we'd like to make to Unity. And really it's a gift to sustaining the truth of the presence of God in every person, in every place, under all conditions. And so let's bless this offering with this offering prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. So it is. you got to promise to show up next week. I think I'm going to put out a notice. I need 12 people. The first 12 people that show up, not you, you're going to show up anyway. I'm going to have to pay 12 people. I have to find them. I'll go to 7-Eleven or something.